All right, let's just get right into it. Welcome to this explainer, where we are counting down the top 10 most powerful prehistoric predators that have ever walked the Earth, or, well, more accurately, ruled its waters and lands. We are looking at the absolute apex of the apex today. But I'm going to give you a quick warning right up front. I am almost positive your guess for the number one spot is going to be completely wrong. It's a secret we're keeping tucked away until the very end, so keep your guesses ready as we work our way down the list.
Because here is the honest truth. You kind of need to forget everything you think the word monster means. I mean, movie monsters, they have absolutely nothing on Mother Nature. For over 400 million years, life on this planet has been quietly and ruthlessly perfecting one single brutal art, the art of the kill. These weren't mindless beasts. They were highly specialized, evolutionary marvels. And today, we're going to break down exactly how they achieved that mastery.
So, before we jump in, how are we actually ranking these guys? What are the rules of the game for this explainer? Well, we're defining power as one thing and one thing only, the raw ability to kill. Think of it as a calculation. We're combining their physical weapons, their sheer size, and, maybe most importantly, the brains to actually use those advantages effectively. This isn't just a heavyweight contest. It's about who is the most perfectly designed for absolute destruction.
Let's kick things off with the early monsters. We're covering numbers 10 down to 8 here.
You really have to consider the sheer, unimaginable scale of these early predators. Coming in at number 10, picture an ordinary river crocodile. Got it? Okay, now stretch that thing to 40 feet long and make it literally heavier than a pickup truck. That is the Sarcosuchus. It had eyes situated right on top of its skull so it could just vanish below the surface. It would wait for a dinosaur to come get a drink and then, boom, it detonated out of the water, clamping down and dragging prey twice its weight into the deep to drown. And crazy enough, that is only number 10. At number 9, we have the Tyrannosaurus. This was a predator that didn't have a single tooth you'd need to worry about. It was a 1-ton snake, longer than an entire school bus, just ruling the steaming jungles right after the dinosaurs vanished. It hunted in total silence. It would wrap around its prey and squeeze with a pressure that could literally crush a car. Ribs and lungs just collapsed all at once, long before it swallowed the animal whole.
Let's move to number 8 and see how this all built. Meet Dunkleosteus, a creature nearly 400 million years old. This was a 30-foot fish entirely sealed inside thick, bony armor. Honestly, it was basically a submarine with a grudge. And the really strange twist here, it had absolutely no teeth at all, but it was still one of the very first true monsters on planet Earth.
So, instead of teeth, its jaw was made up of 2 self-sharpening blades of solid bone. And those blades slammed shut in 1/50th of a second. Think about that. That is literally faster than you can blink. It had a bite strong enough to snap another shark clean in half. It just goes to show you the oceans have been a completely terrifying place for a very, very long time.
Moving right along to the giant land predators. Number 7 down to 5.
Here we have 2 distinct apex killers with completely different tactical approaches. At number 7 is the Allosaurus, easily the most common giant predator of the Jurassic period. Now, surprisingly, its bite was actually pretty weak, so it had to adapt. It turned its entire head into a weapon, swinging its open jaws down like a literal axe to hack deep, bleeding wounds into giants, and then it just patiently backed away and waited for them to fall. Then, at number 6, we have the Dinosaurus, which translates to shark-toothed lizard. This thing was bigger than a T-Rex, and its jaws were lined with 8-inch, flattened, serrated teeth, exactly like a great white shark's. It didn't crush its food, it sliced it. It would carve massive, bleeding strips of muscle straight off living giants in the scorching prehistoric heat of Africa, and basically just let blood loss do the rest of the work.
Now let's look at a really fascinating hypothetical clash of evolutionary philosophies. At number 5, we have the Giganotosaurus. And we're actually going to compare it directly to our number 3 predator, the legendary T-Rex. Because if these two ever fought for supremacy, it would be a battle of absolute contrasts. See, the Giganotosaurus was the ultimate slashing chaser. It was longer and lighter than a T-Rex, totally built for the chase, with a slim skull and a slashing bite. But its real secret weapon was teamwork. Evidence suggests they actually hunted in groups. Picture a pack of these giants, each one heavier than an elephant, working together to drop a 100-ton prey animal. On the flip side, the T-Rex was the heavy tank. It didn't rely on numbers, it relied on overwhelming raw power, a bone-crushing bite, and perfect depth perception. So it's the classic matchup, right? The agility and coordinated pack tactics of the Giganotosaurus versus the completely unstoppable solitary brute force of the heavy tank.
All right, into breaking prehistoric rules. This brings us to number 4.
So the really crucial point about the Spinosaurus is that it barely touched dry land. Clocking in at over 50 feet long, it is the largest predatory dinosaur ever discovered, but it was an aquatic nightmare. We actually recently learned it had a paddle-like tail, meaning this 50-foot monster actively swam. It rocked this giant sail on its back, maybe to soak up heat, or honestly, maybe just to look absolutely enormous and terrifying. It had a long crocodile jaw full of cone-shaped teeth that were just perfect for gripping slippery prey in deep rivers. It hunted sharks and saw fish the size of rowboats in a flooded world that no other predator could even enter. It basically had its own private aquatic kingdom.
Which brings us to the ultimate land predator, number 3.
The Tyrannosaurus rex. I mean, it really needs no introduction, but it has completely earned the fear. While it didn't actually have the biggest body on this list, it had tools that made it the perfect tracker. Its forward-facing eyes gave it perfect depth perception, meaning there was absolutely no hiding in its blind spots. Combine that with a sense of smell that could track a corpse for miles and, well, if a T-Rex was looking for you, it was gonna find you.
And when it did find you, this is what happened. 12,000 pounds. That is the bite force of a T-Rex. It's the most powerful bite of any land animal in the entire history of the planet. Literally enough to crush a car. Its teeth were not thin, slicing blades. They were thick, bone-crushing spikes, each one roughly the size of a banana. It bit down, drove those spikes through you, and just swallowed your bones whole. And sure, we can always joke about the tiny arms, but considering each one could curl more weight than most adult humans can even lift, they were truly the very least of your problems.
Okay, we are leaving the land behind for the kings of the ocean. The final two, numbers 2 and 1.
And sitting at number 2, we have the Megalodon. Yeah, you heard me right, number 2. I know a lot of you probably assumed the largest shark that ever existed would take the crown. This was a creature as long as 3 school buses, just cruising the open oceans and hunting actual literal whales as if they were light snacks.
Let this number sink in for a second. 40,000 pounds of pressure. The Megalodon had the strongest bite force ever measured on any creature, anywhere. It drove teeth the size of your open hand straight through solid bone. It was the biggest, it had the strongest bite in history. So, wait, why is it only the runner-up?
Which brings us to a genuinely unsettling thought, and a true test of how we define power. The most powerful shark in the history of Earth just vanished a few million years ago. Why? Because despite being the ultimate physical weapon, the Megalodon lacked one crucial, game-changing attribute that our number 1 predator possessed in spades.
Enter number 1, Leviathan. This was a prehistoric sperm whale roughly as long as the Megalodon, found buried in a Peruvian desert that was once an ocean floor. It's named after the biblical sea monster for a very good reason. Just picture its teeth. They were over a foot long. These are the single largest biting teeth of any animal in the history of Earth, and they were built for one highly specific, terrifying job: killing other whales.
But you know what? The teeth alone aren't why it wins. It really comes down to the ultimate showdown: brains versus brawn. Swimming through those exact same oceans, hunting those exact same whales, Leviathan brought something to the table the Megalodon could never grow: a highly advanced brain. See, Leviathan was a whale, meaning it was genuinely intelligent and almost certainly hunted in coordinated pods. A lone giant shark like the Megalodon is the perfect physical weapon, sure. But a pack of giant, intelligent hunters working together, exactly the way orcas take down great whites today, that is something else entirely. Overwhelming size, combined with a mind that could actually plan and coordinate an attack, that is the single deadliest combination this planet has ever built, and that right there is why Leviathan wears the crown.
So there is your full ranking, from 10 all the way down to 1. The most powerful predator that ever lived wasn't just the biggest brute, it was the one clever enough to outsmart it. Now, I know some of you are probably debating this right now. Maybe you're advocating for the heavy tank T-Rex or the lone giant Megalodon based purely on brawn. So I challenge you, based on the evidence we've covered today, who is your real number 1? Think about that balance of weapons, size, and brains. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep questioning what true power really looks like.